UPS Standard 8A. Define trade barriers as tariffs, quotas, embargoes, standards, and subsidies. A little bit long one here. Trade barriers are erected in order to protect the workers in our country, our labor force. They're erected to protect our national security. And there's a couple other reasons that we'll cover in class that they're put up. But here's the different types of trade barriers. Number one is a tariff. A tariff is obviously placed on an item that we want to become more expensive within our country. Like if we put a tariff on rugs, and rugs came from let's say India, and we wanted to help the rug manufacturers in Dalton, Georgia be able to compete with the rug manufacturers in India. We would place a tariff on all rugs coming from India, therefore forcing their prices up and making our Dalton rugs and carpet more, I guess, competitive with the world, and that's where we would protect ourselves in that nature. Quotas would be where we say that we will only take a certain amount of any type of good from any country in the entire world. Like we only take a certain amount of rugs from India, a certain amount of rugs from China, a certain amount of rugs from Europe, and we set quotas and limits on that. By the way, the person or the entity that's setting the quotas and the tariffs is the government. The next would be an embargo. The best embargo that I can come up with, which may come to an end during your lifetime, would be the trade embargo on Cuba. We place it's started through a trade war back during the Cold War, which put a embargo on all goods and services coming from Cuba. The reason Cuban cigars are illegal in the United States. We set standards. Trade barriers could come in the form of standards where for instance, the red in red paint or any types of paints coming from China, we set a lead standard. And that's usually set for safety, but it could also set the standard so high that our country, our businesses can benefit from it. But usually the standards are used for protectionism and national security, so that, and they do slip through. Think about the dog food incident that happened when the poisoned dog food entered our country from China, and several people's dogs in the southeast and around the nation died or got really sick just because of that, or the red paint with the children's toys and all the recalls that came from that. So that's why standards are set up. And then subsidies. Subsidies are payments from the government to businesses that trade in the United States not to trade with. It pays our businesses not to trade with foreign countries. So there's other ways, as well. We could put excise taxes and things like that on our own, and penalize our own businesses for trading worldwide. Especially if they're shipping the jobs overseas and things like that. So that is where the government definitely takes more control and is not free trade ideas. All of those types of trade barriers are not free trade ideas.